In the peaceful village of Umuku, there lived two women, Chinonso and Ifeananya. They had been childhood friends, but life had taken them down different paths. Chinonso had moved to the city years ago, leaving behind her humble beginnings, while Ifeananya remained in the village, living a modest life with her children. One day, a rumor began to spread in Umuku about a new vendor in town. It was said that Ifeananya, once just a simple housewife, had become incredibly successful after starting a yogurt business. Her yogurt was unlike any other, creamy, rich, and smoother than any the villagers had ever tasted. People from neighboring villages traveled long distances just to taste it, leaving other local vendors struggling to make sales. Ifeanyanya's journey to success had been nothing short of a miracle. She had once been married to a kind man, a man who treated her like a queen. They had two beautiful children, and life was perfect. But life can be cruel, and Ifeanyanya's happiness was short-lived. Her husband fell seriously ill, and despite all efforts, he passed away. The medical bills drained their savings, and Ifeananya was left to fend for herself and her children. Struggling to make ends meet, she resorted to taking up multiple odd jobs, from cleaning to sewing, to provide for her family. But despite her hard work, life remained difficult. One day, while walking past Achievers College, a prestigious school in the town, she saw a yogurt vendor outside, surrounded by a crowd of students. The sight struck her deeply. Here was someone making money effortlessly, while she was struggling just to make ends meet. She dreamed of owning such a business herself. As fate would have it, Ifeananya met Ngozi, a friendly woman who ran the yogurt stand. The two exchanged stories, and Ngozi offered to teach Ifeananya how to make yogurt and even loaned her the money to start her own business. Ifeananya was overwhelmed with gratitude and took the opportunity with open arms. She learned the basics of yogurt making from Ngozi, and soon, she was selling her own yogurt by the roadside, right next to the village college. But things didn't go as smoothly as she had hoped. Although the yogurt was good, the sales were not enough to get her ahead. Ifeananya noticed that the other yogurt vendors, including Ngozi, were making more sales than she was. Her heart grew heavy with envy, and she began to feel a dangerous urge to do something drastic. One night, as she sat alone in her kitchen, a strange thought crossed her mind. What if she could make the yogurt even better? What if she could mix her own breast milk into the yogurt, making it richer and smoother than ever? After all, breast milk was organic, full of nutrients, and had always been considered a natural source of nourishment. Perhaps this would give her an edge over the competition. Without further thought, Ifeananya began experimenting in her kitchen. She mixed her breast milk with the yogurt, and the result was nothing short of miraculous. The yogurt became incredibly creamy, and the taste was sweeter and smoother than anything she had ever made before. The next day, she sold both the regular yogurt and the special batch mixed with her breast milk. To her surprise, the customers loved it. They raved about the taste, and before long, Ifeanyanya's sales skyrocketed. Word of her special yogurt spread quickly, and she found herself overwhelmed with customers. Her small roadside stand soon became a shop, and her business grew rapidly. Ifeanyanya's success was nothing short of extraordinary. The once humble woman, who had struggled to make ends meet after the death of her husband, now found herself at the helm of a rapidly growing business. The transition from a roadside yogurt seller to a well-established entrepreneur in Umuku was marked by hard work, secrecy, and the controversial addition of a secret ingredient. Her success was not just due to the taste of the yogurt but also her charm and marketing skills. She made the yogurt seem like a luxury, a rare treat that everyone wanted to have. The demand for her special yogurt grew, and it wasn't long before she had enough money to open another shop in a nearby town. With each passing day, her business blossomed. As Ifeananya expanded, her life transformed. She moved her children to the best school in the area, purchased a larger home, and invested in a few other ventures. Her success even caught the attention of wealthy business owners, some of whom offered to partner with her. Ifunanya had become a local celebrity, admired for her work ethic and her success. But amid all her growth, there was a growing sense of unease inside her. Though the financial rewards were abundant, Ifunanya could not escape the nagging feeling that she was doing something wrong. She rationalized it as a necessary step to secure her family's future, but deep down, she feared that the truth about her secret might one day come to light. Shinonso, after years of living in the city, heard about the success of her old friend. She became both intrigued and envious. Her business ventures in the city were not doing well, and seeing Ifunanya flourish in such a dramatic way stirred up feelings of envy, resentment, and suspicion. It seemed like Ifunanya's business was too good to be true, and Shinonso could not shake the feeling that there was something more behind her friend's sudden prosperity. Determined to uncover the truth, Shinonso decided to visit her old friend in Umuku. She arrived one evening, and as she walked through the village, she noticed how everything had changed. The once humble huts and narrow paths had been replaced with wide roads, modern houses, and fancy shops. The village was now a small hub of activity, and Ifunanya's yogurt empire was at the heart of it. When she finally arrived at Ifunanya's home, Shinonso was taken aback by the grandeur of the house. It was nothing like the modest home Ifunanya had once lived in. It was a beautiful, sprawling building with manicured gardens and a grand front gate. It felt like a far cry from the small, simple life they had once shared. Ifunanya welcomed Shinonso with open arms, as always, but there was something different about her. She seemed more guarded, and very secretive. Shinonso couldn't put her finger on it, but it was as though Ifunanya was hiding something. They spent the evening reminiscing about old times, but Shinonso's mind kept wandering back to the yogurt. How was it possible for Ifunanya to have such success in such a short time? It didn't add up. She knew Ifunanya had always been a hard worker, but this was something else entirely. Later that night, after the conversation had died down, Shinonso excused herself and quietly crept toward the kitchen. Ifunanya wasn't going to reveal her secret willingly, so Shinonso decided to investigate on her own. She slipped into the shadows and watched as Ifunanya prepared her next batch of yogurt. Her heart raced as she saw the familiar sight of Ifunanya pouring something into the yogurt mixture, but it wasn't just milk. It was her breast milk. Shinonso stood frozen, staring in disbelief. She could hardly believe her eyes. The rich, creamy yogurt that had taken over the village was being made with something she had never expected. Ifunanya was using her own breast milk as a key ingredient. The realization hit Shinonso like a punch to the gut. Ifunanya had been using her breast milk to create the yogurt, selling it to the unsuspecting public as a special, secret recipe. Stunned by what she had just witnessed, Shinonso quietly left the compound, her mind whirling with conflicting thoughts. She felt disgusted by what she had learned but also knew that this was the key to the success Ifunanya had achieved. The following week, Shinonso made her decision. She could not stand by while Ifunanya's success continued to deceive the villagers. The truth needed to be exposed, no matter the cost. She had filmed the entire scene in Ifunanya's kitchen that night, and now it was time to share it with the world. Shinonso sent the video to the local news station, the same station that had covered Ifunanya's rise to fame. She sat back and waited for the inevitable storm to hit. The video aired the following evening, and the village was rocked by the revelation. The public was horrified. Many were angry, feeling betrayed by someone they had trusted. Parents who had fed their children Ifunanya's yogurt were enraged, while others were simply disgusted by the idea that a woman had been using her own body in such a way for commercial gain. The backlash was swift and unforgiving. Ifunanya's stores were vandalized, and her customers abandoned her in droves. The once celebrated yogurt empire crumbled under the weight of scandal and public outrage. Ifunanya tried to explain herself, claiming that her yogurt was made with only the best ingredients, but the damage had already been done. Her children were bullied at school, and some of their classmates even refused to eat food that came from her household. The community that had once supported her now turned their backs. It seemed that Ifunanya's rise to power had been as swift as her fall. But the most painful part was the betrayal of Chinonso, her childhood friend. Ifunanya could not understand why Chinonso would expose her like this. They had been friends for so long, yet Chinonso had chosen to tear her down instead of helping her find another way to succeed. As Ifunanya stood before the crumbling remains of her business, she realized how quickly things could fall apart. As the days passed and the public outrage continued, the authorities took action. The health department conducted an investigation. What they discovered was enough to bring criminal charges against her. Ifunanya was arrested for endangering public health by selling a product made with her breast milk without disclosure. She was charged with deception and violating food safety regulations. The arrest sent shockwaves through the village. People who had once supported her were divided. Some felt that Ifunanya had crossed the line, while others sympathized with her struggle to survive and provide for her family. However, no one could deny that she had broken the law, and now she would have to face the consequences. Ifunanya was taken into custody and placed in a holding cell, where she had time to reflect on the choices that had led her to this point. Her children were taken to an orphanage, as she had no one else to care for them. The guilt of losing her children was unbearable, and the reality of her situation sank in. She thought about her late husband, who had always been the moral compass of their family. He would have never condoned what she had done. Ifunanya's trial was quick. The evidence against her was overwhelming, and despite her defense that she had acted out of desperation, the judge found her guilty. She was sentenced to 6 years in prison. The courtroom was silent as the verdict was read, and Ifunanya could feel the weight of her actions bearing down on her. She had lost everything: her reputation, her freedom, and her children. She sat in her cell, alone, and wondered if there was any way to make things right. Ifunanya spent months in prison, her life reduced to the monotonous rhythm of the prison walls and the heavy silence that surrounded her. The time away from the world gave her the space to confront the deep regret that was beginning to consume her. She missed her children terribly. The guilt of losing them haunted her every night. They were taken from her by the authorities, and though she had been allowed to visit them occasionally, they no longer looked at her with the same admiration. She had failed them in ways that no amount of money or business success could ever undo. Ifunanya's only hope now was that, in time, her children would understand the reasons behind her decisions and forgive her for the pain she had caused. When her sentence came to an end, Ifunanya was released from prison. She had changed, but the weight of her past still followed her. Her business was gone, her reputation tarnished, and her family broken. There was no easy road to redemption, but Ifunanya had made a vow to herself: she would never make the same mistakes again. Ifunanya returned to Umuku after her release, but her return was not one of triumph. There were no grand celebrations, no cheers from the crowds. Instead, she was met with wary glances and quiet whispers. The village that had once hailed her as a successful entrepreneur now viewed her with suspicion. People who had once been her loyal customers avoided her, unsure of how to treat her after what had been revealed. It wasn't easy for Ifunanya to face the villagers. She knew that her actions had hurt them deeply, and that regaining their trust would be an uphill battle. Ifunanya spent her days trying to rebuild her life in a humble way. She took on small jobs in the community, helping farmers, and working in the local market. The work was grueling and didn't bring her any wealth, but it brought her something more valuable: peace of mind. For the first time in a long while, Ifunanya felt like she was living according to her principles. She also focused on her children. The journey of healing with them was slow and painful, but she never gave up. Every day, she tried to show them that she had changed and that her love for them had not wavered, despite the mistakes she had made. Over time, some villagers began to see the changes in Ifunanya. They recognized her efforts to live an honest life and her dedication to rebuilding what she had lost. Slowly but surely, she regained the respect of a few, though it would never be the same as it had been. Some believed that her redemption was genuine, while others remained skeptical. Still, Ifunanya had learned that redemption wasn't about pleasing everyone, it was about staying true to oneself and accepting the consequences of one's actions. The story of Ifunanya was a powerful reminder that success should never come at the expense of one's integrity. No matter how difficult the journey, integrity should always guide one's actions. In a world where fame and wealth can easily lead one astray, Ifunanya's tale became a lesson for future generations that true success is not measured by what one gains, but by what one holds dear. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe to this channel. Also do well to check out more amazing stories in the playlist above. See you on the next one.